Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Lift. My name's Charles McGillivray, and as always, I'm joined by Jess Kevin and Simon Stacey. We're a fans podcast by fans for fans of Northampton Saints. Please remember to follow us on all social media, like and subscribe, etc., etc. The more you do that, the quicker you'll get our content. So please remember to do that. How are you both doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Good. It's sort of the inevitable back to earth with a bump.
Yeah, had to happen at some point, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's like we said over the last few weeks we've been bullying teams, and it's sort of we've been the schoolyard bully, and now we've come up against our match, and we sort of got a bit of a bloody nose because of it. I think puts things into perspective a bit, doesn't it? Away at Bordeaux in front of 30-odd thousand fans, a team of that talented and a tricky place to go, and you realise that however good you are, everything has got to go your way on those days, and most things didn't go our way at all.
No, they didn't.
It's like even I think we spoke about this like after the Harlequins game, even though that was like obviously a really good result at the end of the day, like we were still really scrappy in the first like 15-20 minutes. I think Dowser said that after the game as well. And I was like, it's okay. This is no shade against Quins because they had a good win over the weekend, but it's okay against a team like Quins who are struggling with like performances in the Prem. But I was like, you're even a tiny bit scrappy against a team like Bordeaux and they'll punish you. And unfortunately, we were scrappy for 50, 60 minutes. And it kind of showed on the scoreboard. But I mean, look, it's not fantastic as a result overall. Although, like you said, I think they are the form team in Europe, and I think are probably heads and shoulders above most of the other teams right now. So it was always going to be really tough. But I still hope at least that there's like some pride within the team to like fight back in the last 20 and get a losing bonus point, because at one point that looked really, really out of reach. Like that we weren't even going to get anything to take back with us, which is obviously then going to make getting second in the table incredibly difficult if we hadn't gotten anything. Whereas that point that they got, could and may actually end up being crucial in allowing us to get second in the table after obviously depends on what happens with Bristol and Bordeaux, but if we get 5 points next week and Bristol don't get anything, like we secure second, and that point might be really crucial in doing that. And that's also really helpful the further you go on in the tournament. So they did knuckle down. I think they actually played some decent rugby in those last 20, came away with a point, which seemed almost impossible with the way they were playing at one point. So yeah, ups and downs. But we just weren't. There was like no clinical edge to us at all for like
your problem
a vast amount.
So I was going to say your problem is obviously they'd planned with the team they'd picked, and obviously Finn didn't play. Not saying Tony Bellew didn't do well, but he also had facial surgery and dentist surgery, didn't he? He had to have a specialist like Gum Shield, so he played through the pain, and what a little trooper to do that, bless him. And obviously JJ was ill, apparently got off his sick bed to play. I know he didn't play. Did he play 30, 40 minutes? But yeah, like you look at the teams, and we've been at, like Charles said, absolutely bullying everybody at the minute. But the vast difference in salary cap is just insane. I'm not going to blame it on that, but when you can pay players, you are.
It's nothing to do with the salary cap, right?
Because you can pay all those players 500 grand a year, mate, and we can't cope. We can't do it. This competition's always been the same. Like your Leinsters and your French sides, they've got such a vast amount of budget.
Paying someone 500k doesn't make them a better player, right?
No, but you pay for the quality, don't you, normally?
But there's also plenty of quality in that Saints side, and the reality is we just didn't turn up. I mean, first point, no scrum, no win. Right, we got absolutely dismantled at scrum time. Okay, their tight head was exceptional, right? But we have an international loose head. Okay, we have. There was nothing in the difference in terms of weight of the pack.
We actually were heavier. We were 25, 30 kilos heavier, I think.
We had an international standard scrum that was weighty enough, and it got absolutely dominated, right? So that's a technical skill coaching point that you've got to put your hand up and go, they just beat us. It's nothing to do with salary cap.
I'm not blaming the salary cap. I'm just saying the quality that they had and didn't have playing is like different class. That's why they're the best team in Europe at the minute. They can call on anyone. Like, we've got quality, but theirs is just like, I think they had internationals at every position. It's just insane. That's all I mean. I'm not blaming it on that. We didn't turn up because we just didn't get our game on the pitch. We hardly had the ball. Tommy wasn't even in the game, really. Like, and he's our strike runner. He just didn't get any ball, and we were just totally outplayed. And
like Tommy's a world class player, like undeniably world class player, and he, I'm not. It's easy to sort of pick him out, right? Because he's undeniably world class, undeniably one of our best players, one of our favourite players. So it's not like we're all kicking him or anything or jumping on him, but he is clearly world class, and he didn't play very well, right? So like that's what you can't account for. It's not like, oh, they had a better team or whatever. They just played better. Our players didn't turn up. How I'm fed up of, like, when we go badly, our guard system just disappears. We just, and I'm not going to point it out, but point one of defence is make sure you've got a guard in place. Scrum half shouldn't be just stepping through and walking to the line, should they? No. That's basic premise of rugby, and that's nothing to do with who gets paid what. That's just like, get your system working, work. And I know they were knackered because they'd been under so much pressure because they were getting dismantled at scrum time, but nothing gave us a foothold in that game, and that's a performance piece. It's not it's not oh, they're better or anything like that. I think we have to just put your hands up and go, on the day, Bordeaux were the better side and they outperformed Saints, and I think that's it. I don't think it's a case of, oh, we couldn't compete or anything like that. It's just they didn't turn up, and they've got to work out why that is.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree, but I'm just saying, like I said, it does make a difference when your squad's just full of internationals, mate. Like, we had players missing, and they do play well in the Prem, but this level's another level. It's the same as when Leinster dominated the European Cup. They've had most of the Irish side because there's no money. It's never a level playing field. I know what you're saying about budget, but when we're spending 5 million on a squad and they're probably spending 20. Yeah, I know you can't buy best, but you buy the best, and if they gel and they work, it works. So it's not a level playing field.
All of their players. Leinster developed all their players, so the Leinster salary cap thing's irrelevant anyway because they literally all come through their academy. I mean, I just think the team we put out, there were some key missing players, right, and we can get and now have big impact on things, but the team we put out should have competed. And for whatever reason, it wasn't the day. It wasn't their day. I think the line out would have been a lot easier and a lot less of an issue if Kemeny was playing. His impact on the line out is significant for us, so that might have helped. And if you get a foothold at line out time, suddenly that gives you opportunities in the game. Bordeaux, it's their unbelievable skill in the day was their transition. How often did it go from us in attack to they've got the ball? Oh wait, they've scored. Yeah, their transition from defence to attack was just sublime, and that's coaching. That's getting in the right position and sort of counter-attacking when you get opportunities arise. They were just sharper than us on the day. Like, it's
the line out. That's the reality. We lost quite a few of our own throw. To be fair. Yeah. They nicked a few. It is what it is. We were going to lose at some point, but it was a tough task to go there and win. But when you even though we got quality on the pitch, there was a few like dingers missing. Obviously, JJ wasn't 100%. Finn, Tony Bellew did a great job, but he obviously, I don't know how he played with that facial injury. Crikey, they said it's going to scar him for life. Apparently, he's lost loads of teeth. I don't know if you read that interview. He's going to put them on a necklace or something because they found him on the training pitch.
I mean, I think the players missing, without a shadow of doubt, we needed them to be able to go and win that, and we needed them all to play well. But we got well and truly thumped.
Oh yeah.
But, like Dingers, that would have added so much security in that midfield because defensively we were jumping out the line. We were trying to fix issues individually. Dingers is the would resolve that with his leadership, his reading of defensive lines. He that's what the skill he brings to the game. He would have helped that massively. The line out, like I said, Kemeny would have made a big difference. There were moments in the game when, as talented as Tony Bellew is, I mean, Finn's ability flat to the line and the skills and composure that he has is like second to none, isn't it? There was one moment where, there was a few sliding door moments throughout the game. There was one where Tony Bellew sort of went to flick it on, and it didn't quite work, and it went behind Slide Home, and then we mucked up, and they got a scrum in our half, and then basically the rest was history. You sort of think if Finn's passing that ball, it's maybe a bit more accurate, and it goes from suddenly got Ollie screaming down the wing, and it's an attacking opportunity for us. There was a moment where Freemo broke through the line, and all he had to do was shuffle it outside to Pollock, and Pollock's running underneath the posts. But he went for the bigger pass, and it essentially gave them the ability to defend. That goes to, then we were winning at that point, both those points. So there were moments, but it just slid away, and they were so efficient at going from we've not got the ball, we've got the ball, we've scored. That transition was just second to none, and it killed us. We couldn't take a breath, because as soon as we lost the ball, we'd conceded.
Yeah, the one person that did turn up though was Mr. Pollock. Crikey, that's right. Who's the winger? Is it? I can never remember. Is it Jalibert, the winger?
No, he's
the 10.
Not Jalibert. Who's the winger? The big winger? Not the.
Perno?
Yeah, he literally did his little chip, totally did him, and then scored that try. It was just like a bit early to be shushing him, but yeah. See, he just thrives on it, doesn't he? He did his little job, but like I said, it was just too much of a uphill task. And like you said, they were so clinical. We were outplayed everywhere, weren't we? There wasn't anything you could say we won in that match, really, apart from the bonus point. Like you said, to come back and get a bonus point. And we're going back to what Jess said at the start. I doubt it will happen, but Bristol are at home. If Bristol win and they don't get anything and we beat Scarlets, they actually drop to third. So that would be hilarious. So it could actually be...
Yeah, I would be amazed, but you never know with the French, do you? You never know. I mean, it does make it interesting. It's like, it's the weirdest tournament in the world for how, like, you can stay in the competition for seems like ages, but you don't know where you're going and what's going on, or who you've got to play. It's just like it's not the easiest to follow, is it? And then I don't know about you, but watching it on Premier Sports, it's such a like downgrade in terms of quality of coverage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's poor.
I had to watch it in my local because we were supposed to be moving, so I haven't got any of my TV. So I went and I didn't have sound. So I couldn't hear why the ref give any of his decisions. But I was like, I text Jess answered a few for me on the group chat. I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm not blaming him, of course, but I think some of the scrum penalties I weren't sure about, and I thought Rory's yellow was a bit harsh. It was late, but it was only split seconds.
They just insisted on watching it in slow motion, didn't they?
He wasn't looking, so it wasn't like he did it intentionally. He'd already committed to that tackle.
Yeah, I don't think that was the yellow card. I don't think that was even a penalty. I thought that was fine, and then he sort of backtracked by saying, it was an off the ball hit. It wasn't a late tackle." Well, it doesn't quite, because he didn't want to give consider a penalty try or anything, but it's clearly a late hit. That's what you've given a penalty for. It's not an off the ball. I know they're one and the same to some extent, but it's like he's clearly in a split second gone to tackle him and he's kicked the ball. Yeah. That's play on for me. And there are a few moments where like they're sliding door moments and they're not awful decisions or what have you, but they're just like maybe in an environment where it's not 30,000 French fans baying for blood, the decision might have been a bit different, but that's to be expected. You just expect that in rugby with the decision making, etc.
Yeah, particularly a ref that wasn't supposed to ref as well. So that was a last minute.
Oh, was he not? I didn't know that.
No, it was supposed to be Andrew Grace.
Yeah.
Who has a bit more experience. Like the ref we had, I've seen him do a lot of AR. He's been the assistant ref a lot. I've not seen him be the main man in charge very often, so he's still quite inexperienced. And I sort of wonder maybe what sort. And I'm not blaming him for that, because like that happens, right? The same as sort of anyone who's like doing a job for like the first time or at the beginning of a career, like you get better as you go. But that was always a big game to manage, and I wonder what maybe would have been different if it was someone with a bit more experience or what have you. But I don't know. I didn't really think the ref was that bad. Like the scrum, I kind of agree. Although I also think that, like, you're right, it got dominated, but there was a marked difference when Manny came on, and sometimes it's
Yeah,
just a case of like a particular style works, because we all know what Danilo is capable of. We saw him the week before absolutely crush it. Like, so we know he's international quality, but sometimes you just come up against a scrum that for whatever reason what you're doing is not working. And we know that from Manny's perspective too. I can't remember what game it was where he was taken off after 30 minutes because he was getting the decisions not going his way and he was going to get a card if they weren't careful. So they replaced him, and the next person that came on was able to manage better. Like, sometimes it literally is just like the style of scrum that you specifically do, the way that you do it just doesn't work for whatever reason. So there was a difference, and then obviously like Danilo didn't come back from the yellow card, and that was the right decision, like to keep Manny on, and it got a little bit better there. But I mean, yeah, we could probably discuss for hours, like, would it have made much of a difference would it have made a difference with like Finn and Dingers, etc. But the problem is everyone else, I'd say literally everyone else bar Pollock, was so off the pace. Like,
yeah,
there's only so much that. Do I think that Dinger's coming in and Smith coming in? I reckon if everyone else had continued to play the same as they did, I still think the results pretty much the same. Um, they were really, and it's not very often that, in fact, I don't think I've ever said it before, where like Mitch Mitch is world class, we know this, but I felt like he was like poor to the extent that McParlin came on and it made an immediate difference, which isn't something I was necessarily expecting to say. Like the game massively picked up when because I remember they made the change like 30 minutes ago. I remember thinking that's a bit strange, even though we'd lost. I thought it's a bit strange because we need to try and get back into it, but actually it ended up being the right decision, I think. And we injected a little bit more pace and we were a little bit, and I also just think they clicked in for whatever reason in that last 30, like, oh, we're really going to come away with nothing. Like at one point I thought Bordeaux were going to get like 70 points. I was like, if it kept going at the pace that it had up to that point. But I think bringing on some of the replacements actually made a big difference in being able to take something away. And like you said, like that 1 point might be the difference between us coming second and third next week. So it may end up being really, really important, obviously, for how the rest of the tournament goes. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the end of the world. I feel like people forget, last season we didn't win all of our pool games. We lost away to Stade Francais. I was there in Paris. Like we came through second in the group, and look where we got to. So look,
yeah.
it's not. And it's why I agree with like what you have to say about the salary cap, Charles. Like I agree that it makes a huge difference in the tournament overall. I think the French clubs are just able to compete better as a whole entire group of teams, and they can usually go deeper in tournaments because they've kind of got the ability to. But I actually think if we play 100% on our day, we could beat them, and we could definitely compete with them. And we were just so far off of that it was just never going to happen over the weekend. But I mean, think about the final. The final, we didn't even have the full kind of team that we wanted.
No.
And we took it was like an 8 point difference. Like I fully believe that the talent we've got in that squad, if they're completely on it and everything's going how you want it to do, like we could definitely get a victory over them. I don't think that's out of the question, but it was definitely out of the question over the weekend. But yeah, I mean, you're right about Bello as well. Like it wasn't just that he had the injury, but he was like gagging to play, like,
Yeah.
telling Douse to put him in. I was like, and I know that there's probably a selfish part of him that wants to do that because he's trying to flog himself to French teams, essentially, as it is. Like, I don't think anyone's made any secret that he's kind of looking to potentially get back into the top 14. So yeah, he was probably desperate for that reason too. But I mean, he put it all on the line. I reckon the stitches held up for like 3/4 of the match, and then by the end he had blood.
Yeah.
He had blood all coming down his face. Unfortunately for him, he's gonna have to get himself stitched back up and probably more surgery to get it fixed. But yeah, I thought like it was still like a really brave thing to do because there was every chance he gets a bad hit within the first few minutes of the game, and he's got to play the whole thing with undone stitches and stuff, which could probably be really horrible. But yeah, we just weren't. I don't think anybody would disagree. We just weren't good enough on the day. We know we can play better than that. But I also don't think this idea that this is signaling something really bad, like moving forward. I'm like, is it? Like we're still flying high in the Prem. Like I don't think we're going to play like that from now on. I think it was probably, I don't want to say one-off because we were quite bad against Bristol as well, but in the Prem, but yeah, it wasn't our day. And probably due to change, maybe a bit of nerves, maybe the occasion just did get to them a little bit, who knows, but maybe a combo of all of them. But yeah,
it's a bit of a bear pit, isn't it? It's a bit of a bear pit, a bit like Clermont. When you get to Clermont, like it's so intense. So you can imagine that atmosphere did get, but sometimes players thrive on that. But yeah, we clearly didn't. But it is what it is. Like you say, onward and upward.
I think it's just a case of they haven't been pushed enough to some extent. Like they've not got that muscle memory of going to the well and needing to dig a result out yet so much this year. Like we were last five, like since the Bears game, essentially they went on an absolute tear, didn't they? And like they were in second, third gear, ripping teams apart, looking outstanding, everything. And not everything was perfect, but they got the results without having to dig deep. Whereas if you compare to the run that they went on to get to the final last year, or the year before, the run that they went on to get to the Premiership final, they had so many experiences of digging out wins. And it's that muscle memory. You need that. And I said before, like I think the reason we beat Leinster was because of that, but in reverse. Leinster, the first time that anyone challenged them was us, and we beat them. So you need to have that like fear and that like understanding that if we don't turn up, we're going to get turned over. You can't just have this like, well, we rock up, we do a bit of this, bit of that, throw it around, score some tries, win the game, happy days. Like you gotta have that muscle memory of going to hell and having to dig deep and know how physical you're going to have to be to play a side as good as Bordeaux. Bordeaux are they're one of the top teams in Europe. Leinster, one of the top teams in Europe. La Rochelle, us, etc. Right? We're all in the mix, but the French teams are slogging out every week, and it almost seems to give them a bit of an advantage as well. We need to get to the point when we can put in those big performances against big away teams, because it's going to be needed now. If we get through next week, we're going to have to go away, and the club will love that. The players will love that to some extent. It's all part of the narrative and the journey that they thrive on. The European journey and going to far-flung places of Europe and having good experiences as a team. They'll love it, but they've got to match the performance to the journey and the experience. And I think that game will be a big wake-up call, and it's the right time of year to have the wake-up call, because you don't want it in May or late end of the year, because it's too late at that point. Have it now.
Yeah.
Realize that wasn't good enough. The standards we have to be consistent at getting to. And yeah, I mean the worrying thing was Iogan went off injured, didn't he? I think because he came on and because it was that Sadie's just a beast, and Iogan absolutely dealt with him, and if not turned the tide a bit. So it shows you the value of Iogan, because those two have been competing at Loosehead all season, and Daniello's probably just starting to edge him a bit because he's been on fire. And then Iogan reminded us how good he was coming on and really solving that problem, but went off injured, so that could be a worrying scenario, couldn't it?
It could. I saw their tight heads. Their tight heads thighs were like two. I'm a big lad. They were like two of mine together. He's an absolute beast, wasn't he?
Well, the funny thing is,
massive.
Ben Tamifuna then comes on, doesn't he? He's like the biggest man in rugby. That's literally like bringing on like a piano to go at tight head. He's like the biggest man ever, isn't he? Like,
it's madness. that was what I meant. I wasn't trying to say we lost because of it, but you can have people like that on the bench that are earning silly money. We can't do that. That's what I mean. We're just lucky. We've come from within, and we've got an amazing squad on such a little budget. And that's what I meant. Like when you got all these French, look at Toulon when they won it 3 years in a row. They were buying the best players in Europe. They had everybody, and they won it because they had the best players.
I think that Toulon team under Wilkinson was a bit of an all-star. Like that's one of the craziest things ever. I mean, it's harder. You can't do that in France anymore because you've got to have the old GIF qualification and all that sort of stuff. And I honestly don't think the depth of squads in France now is as yes, they've got world-class players, but like we've got 4 Lions. Like, I really think our squad matches up against. We've got 2 international tight ends.
Well, that's what I mean. What I'm saying is we have got quality, but we can't afford to have like an international in every position on the bench as well. We just can't afford it, whereas they can. That's all I meant. It's the
thing is it also depends like team on teams. Like at the moment, like out in Europe outside of Bordeaux, like some of those French teams are struggling. Like you watch Toulouse at the weekend with Dupont, some of the stars they've got, and that like they are struggling. Like I watched the Bulls game, which was at the Bulls. They had 10 Springboks in that squad, and I would say that like for the first 40 of that half, that was like one of the worst European performances for 40 minutes I've ever seen. They were that bad and they looked that disinterested. And you had like Andre Pollard, Nokia, like and I was like, like sometimes it doesn't actually necessarily matter that much. Like there's, I still think, like I said, Bordeaux are far and away the favourites and may still take the title this year. But outside of that, I feel like the gap is nowhere near what it used to be in terms of, even like Toulon are a good side, but not what they were. Toulouse definitely not what they were. Like, it's a bit more open now. But yeah, I mean, there were some interesting English teams as well putting, names forward. Like, Bristol did look really good, to be fair to them. Like, yeah, they were playing against a Bulls team that for large parts of it seemed to not give a crap. But, Bulls turned it on in the second half and Bristol still managed to kind of outpace them, as it were. So there's some some teams that are making good names for themselves. I mean, Glasgow turning over a 21-point deficit at home to beat Toulouse, like, was a ridiculous scoreline. So it's actually shaping up, I think, to be like a really interesting knockout, like however many weeks it is, like knockout period, like for Europe, because there are some kind of like teams that maybe you weren't expecting who are going to be a kind of a bit higher than some of the others. But yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we know how negative it was, so we can like wax lyrical about that for ages. But that 1 point actually got us qualified. Like, we have already qualified. Like, that point really helped us. If we didn't get it and other things didn't go our way, like I think we were still always going to qualify, because it's 4 out of the 6 teams, and this is no shade to obviously Scarlets and Poe, but they are very much off the pace compared to everyone else. So it felt like we sort of knew what 4 teams were probably going to get through, and we were always going to be one of them. But yeah, getting yourself qualified, having a performance that was overall pretty bad, but still being able to fight back to get a bonus point and get yourself qualified with a week still left to go, like, it could be worse, like, definitely. And I don't think that I think if we were to play Bordeaux again and we had a full strength side and they were playing, I don't think we'd play like that against them again.
No.
But you're right. I think sometimes I'm not saying that the team need humbled. I don't mean it in that way. But sometimes you need to realise that, like, as good as you've been, there's always room for improvements. And it just so happens that Bordeaux were the team that really were able to kind of highlight where some of our weaknesses might still be. And then that's also useful for coaches, right? Because like you said, they've had however many games now where they've had really, really good results, but it's not quite been maybe working for the full 80. And a team like Bordeaux to really show you what can happen if you don't. And it's a learning experience, isn't it? We're still forgetting that quite a lot of these players, are still young. They said they've only got a season or 2 under their belts of playing like knockout games, harder games where you've really got to be on it for 80 minutes. And yeah, maybe it's perhaps a bit slower in terms of adapting sometimes, but I think they'll get there. And yeah, if we were to play them again, I'm not saying we would win, I don't mean it like that, but I don't think we'd get the same level of performance. I think it would definitely be improved.
Yeah, I think there'd definitely be a lot of learnings and a lot of, thoughts going into our performance ahead of the game. I mean, you said about, the fight back to get the bonus point, etc. I thought some of the impact of the bench was really, really good. That really led the charge in doing that. I thought Prowse, Graham, Smith all had really big impacts coming off the bench and putting it around. I mean, it's worth noting, obviously, Graham's now announced that he's off to the Red Bulls, but I mean, he's going to be a big replacement. We need to replace him, don't we? Because he was so physical when he came on.
Yeah, he's literally playing to how he was just before he got injured. He's got his contract now. He's playing like he's on the market, and it's absolutely amazing. He's hitting everything. He looks like a proper it's the best Sam Graham I think we've ever seen, and it's gutting he's going really, but we get it because there's so much talent in our back row now. He's not getting games, so I don't blame him.
No, I think him and that's where him and Miller Mills are going, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
I think it's probably the perfect move for both of them at the right time. Like, for Miller Mills, the reality is he's a Scotland international. He's not getting enough game time. He goes to Newcastle. He's going to get a lot more. He's going to be much, much closer to home. And the same for Sam Graham. Like, he deserves to be starting week in, week out. And the reality is that in our squad, that's not always going to be possible just because of who we've got in the squad. Like, we mentioned obviously like Pearson, Kemeny. You have like Kemeny, Pearson, Pollock, Chick, all playing really, really well. Like, where does Graham fit in terms of like a starting position? Like, it gets really tough. Whereas, you can see him going to Newcastle, just absolutely bossing that week in, week out for them. So it is sad to see him going, don't get me wrong. But the reality is, when you mention Graham, Kemeny, Pearson, Pollitt, that's already 5 people. And then we've got some academy players in those positions that are going to be starting to come through as well, who we're probably going to see in the PRC tournament, that someone had to go somewhere, probably. And yeah, I think it's probably the right move for both of them. They'll get more game time, get to see like a lot more of them. And yeah, you never want to have to, I think Charles, you said the same thing. You always want them to kind of leave and go to a different country, so you don't have to face them. So you don't have to face them. But yeah, I don't begrudge either of them the move. Like I said, I think they've made the right choice for themselves at the right time. And Newcastle's a very exciting, the way that the team is building at the moment. It's probably a really exciting place to go play, to be part of the team and that journey and where they're coming from and where they hope to end up. So yeah, wish them all both the best.
Is he not also a thing of the Saints process of not giving players hit 30 more than 1 year contract? Because isn't Sam Graham 29?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to read into that because it might have just been that the opportunity at Red Bulls was better for him. Because regardless of the play, yeah, I think we're weaker for losing him for sure.
Oh
He's
yeah,
a class player. Whether that's his second choice or when it first pushing for choice, whatever, he's a class player. But he's like you say, 29. He deserves to be playing week in, week out in the Premiership because he's better than some players who are.
I just mean
you just gotta. It's just part of that.
Saints might not have offered him more than 1 year. Not Red Bull have offered him 2. So why wouldn't you go for 2? And no doubt they've offered him more because Red Bull's got the cash, haven't they? So I don't blame him. And he's not playing, and he'll probably start. He could even captain that Newcastle side. So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Too.
It'd be a massive loss, and we wish him well because he's a quality player and is always put in 100%. So has Miller Mills when he's got to play.
Yeah.
He's on about people leaving. Is it Luke Green? He's just signed a new contract just to
staying. Yeah.
Put it the other way.
Yeah, I imagine there won't be too much change really. It's going to be one in, one out because the squad size is actually quite good, isn't it? So you're gonna see, like, unless players leave, I imagine it will go and sign a back rower. I don't think you can lose Angus Scott Young and Graham and over the course of a season and not need to replace them. And Finn Brown and Archie Benson are both great prospects stepping up, but I still think you need probably another 8 because Pollock and Chick are probably the options, but Pollock's an international and Pollock could also play 7 if suddenly you get one injury and you're like, okay, we haven't got any more depth, so you gotta
Go back to the Bordeaux game. I was going to say, could we not have had a medical joker at half time? A certain goat was in the crowd. He could have just had a little 40-minute bonus. He could have come on and helped us out, couldn't he? Mr. Laws.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's good to see him still supporting the club. I mean, I don't think there's more of a man loved in Northamptonshire than anyone else anywhere else, is there? Really? So,
he's Northampton through and through, that boy, and he always will be.
I thought the only other thing I wanted to comment on, and I don't. This isn't a criticism at all. Was some of the young players' composure in moments was perhaps a bit forced. You look at Furbank, for example, right? You can isolating him in moments, and his technique is just spot on. It doesn't matter whether he's flat to the line, he's moving the bonnet along the line, whether he's at the back, whatever. In isolation, everything he does is technically spot on perfect. Some of the younger players in the side, for example, everything seemed rush. It was like almost like acting on instinct, and forgetting about technique. And I think that the best sports people in the world, it's all about composure. It's about operating exceptionally high standards of skill in the toughest environments. And it's almost like we got into that tough environment on occasion and the skill went out the window. And that was part of the reason we couldn't get anything working because we were flinging the ball around left, right, and centre when that wasn't really what was needed. We were passing on rubbish, is for a better way of saying it. Sometimes you've got to take responsibility, stuck your head down, and carry the ball. Passing filth on the line isn't the best option. And I think there were too many times where they looked like rabbits in the headlights. Composure was gone, because we know the skill levels are there, but you've got to be able to execute those in those tough moments. And I'm not going to mention any names specifically, but like I just thought there were times when that was a clear concern for me, and for those players to develop, that needs to be they need to be get that you put him in those high pressure situations and seeing how they react is part of that. But they've got to keep putting them in them, and they've got to get better at composure. And you look at I'll take another sport. You look at golf. For years, Tiger Woods would be leading a major tournament, or everyone chasing him, and he wouldn't have a beat of sweat on his head. His composure and ability just to deliver excellence was there, and no matter the pressure, and they want to be in those pressures. It's pressure situations. It's this sort of all black mentality of you want to be in those scenarios. You want to be in a position where if you score a try, you win the World Cup, right? So don't worry about being in those positions because you want to be there. Don't let it affect you because you want to be there. And I just think that I know they do a lot of work with a psychologist or a sports psychologist, etc. I think that there are huge areas, and you've seen the development of. I think Alex Coles has hugely improved in that area, and I hope that some of these youngsters as well can show that same level of development because the talent's there, but they struggled at moments, and it's those. Hopefully, they'll be better for it.
Yeah, I think sometimes it is just a case of like things are going so bad that you can't help but just try too hard. Like I'm sure all of us can say there's been like a time in our life where like something's gone wrong and we've tried too hard to fix it and it's made it worse. And sometimes that's just the case that that just happens. And like we've seen some of these players that didn't put in like great performances over the weekend, but we've seen that they can do. Like so we know it's in there. Like I mean, I know you said you didn't want to use any names, and I'm not saying this to pick on a person, but like Hendy, for example, he's gone from man of the match in the final and some really great performances this season. And I thought again, I don't mean this in a mean way, but it was just he was so off colour over the weekend. Like, and I think also Ram not being able to play didn't help because I felt like we needed someone a little bit more secure in terms of like gathering the ball, keeping the ball, etc. But like I said, I mean, Hendy's one of my absolute favourite players. I love watching him play, and we know what he can do when he's on it. And so we know it's there. And it's just like you said, it's a case of dealing with. And we know what he has been able to achieve like in tough moments. Like he basically won us that Prem final against Bath at the end. So sometimes it is just one-offs, and yeah, like, it did feel like the panic had set in, which I think was what kind of surprised me so much when McParland came on. I thought this is going to go one of two ways, and I didn't know which way it was going to go, but it actually felt like he brought a lot of kind of calmness to it, and we sort of went back into kind of doing what we know we can do well, and being able to get the bonus point, which I think is just another kind of good tick against his name, because I think he's been incredible recently, considering the amount of scrutiny that he was under at one point, like some of the horrible comments they made in, again, I can't remember what game it was, where he didn't have the best game and he'd probably say the same, and people were absolutely horrendous. And so I've kind of been so kind of happy for him this season to see some of the performance he's been putting in, but I felt like he actually was the better of our two nines on the day, which is probably something that I would never have expected to say just because of Mitch's ability. I think him and Bella in particular actually worked really nicely off each other when McParland came on. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think we just like I said earlier, we just have to chalk it up to just, for whatever reason, it just wasn't working, and I'm sure they already would have, as next it's Tuesday as we record this now. So yesterday, now I'm sure they would have been in, they'd have reviewed, they'd have started having a look at kind of where it went wrong and where to fix it. But yeah, it's just one of those situations where it is what it is. But
going back to what Charles said about being absolutely dominating the forwards, it's the old adage, isn't it? Forwards win your points, the backs win it by how many? And the reason people like Andy were so quiet is because we just didn't have the bloody ball, did we, to be fair? So I get what you're saying. Everyone was poor, but we were just so dominated that everyone was quiet. And that's the point. If you're not winning the forward ball, with the forwards winning scrums and rucks and all that, the backs aren't going to be able to do nothing, are they? And
yeah,
I must say though, for Bordeaux, like you mentioned, like forwards, backs about how much you win by, but I've got to say Cameron Wacky in the forwards was was
insane, isn't it?
insane. Like,
Let the
I
Hawkeye
think
win.
he definitely contributed to how many they won by. Like, he was incredible. He was just absolutely on it. But I mean, I was going to say, come back to you said Switch. I was about like, like kind of the lack of composure that we showed. But it's kind of ironic that Bordeaux's lack of composure at the end is what got us the bonus point. Like, Penaud just screaming in someone's face. I know that BLB had done it to Pollock earlier on in the game. I can't think of it. I didn't notice who Penaud had screamed at, but him just screaming in someone's face, giving us a penalty. We get the
I think it
try,
was.
get the
I think
bonus
it was
point.
Slytone. I think Slytone was
I,
niggling
I think so.
all.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Slight Home is
So
sorry, just Slight Home is like a. We all know how good he can be and how good he's been in the past, but we just need him to get that run of fixtures back so that we can get him where it is. It seems to be constantly a stuttering start before it's another setback or whatever it may be. Because at his best, he's like the most niggly, aggressive, like dog of a man who will chase everything, make things happen from nothing, and when he's allowed to unleash his physical attributes, he's insane. But like we just need that run of games in him, don't we? Like hopefully he plays now for the next 5 fixtures, and we'll see him get back to where he's his best. And like even when Pollock scored his try, Slyhome was like in the face of one of theirs. Like we miss it. He's so good at it. It adds another dimension. And with Pollock as well, it's like it just shows that sort of we're not here to muck around. We're here to win, and it sort of exudes through the team a bit. But yeah, Slyhome is such a frustrating figure for me at the moment because of how good I know he can be. But his body seems to be constantly letting him down, doesn't it?
He's got the
yeah, I think
body and the power and performance of a winger, but the mind and the physicality of a forward, hasn't he? He's always in people's faces trying to start fights. You always see it when he's playing. You always know he started it. You know it. He always has.
There is definitely like an element of like a bit of a disconnect somewhere. Like, and I think we all forget like sort of what he's been through in terms of like what his body has been through. He had like I think that really bad concussion for a while. Then obviously the ankle injury, I think it was, and the surgery and coming back from that. Like it takes its toll. And so there's something missing, but that's not me thinking that like it's never coming back. Like it's just like you said, it's kind of a stop-start situation for him at the moment. It's also a difficult thing, obviously, of like he was gone obviously with the injury for a while, and then you've got like Todoro coming through and Ram playing really well and Freeman sometimes on the wing, and like sometimes it can be a thing of like you kind of end up like falling behind a little bit, which is again not his fault. Like an injury happened, there's nothing you can really do about that. But yeah, there was sort of part of me that wished he was maybe spent a bit less time in everyone's face and a bit more trying to get himself sort of into the game a bit. But at the end of the day, if he wound up Penaud and Penaud screaming got us the penalty, I can't really blame him for that, because like I said, it got us and no doubt Bordeaux will be happy with the win, but there's no way us getting the bonus point doesn't niggle at them a little bit. That there isn't a little element of slight disappointment there that they kind of allowed us in 4 times to be able to kind of get that point at the end of the game. But it's really interesting, because when we last played Bordeaux, I thought that they came across as like the most childish bunch of people that I've ever seen in like in rugby. I was like, what is going on with this team? And like I kind of felt like that a little bit during the game, but then you sort of saw them all afterwards, just like hugging different Saints players, like having a laugh with them, having a chat with them. It seems to be one of those really weird things where like the game really sets them off, but then once the game is finished, everything like immediately just drops back to, oh, actually, I kind of like this guy, and I kind of think this guy's quite funny, actually. Like
very traditional rugby, really, isn't it? You go out there, you beat hell out of each other for 80 minutes, and then you have a pint and a pie. So it's sort of that traditional mindset, and I think though as well, to be fair, I think Pollock's reaction to the whole scenario has elevated the people's respect for him massively, because he hasn't wilted at all. He hasn't complained. He hasn't more woe me or anything like that. He has literally just gone, go on then, let's come up, and then turned up and put in an absolutely outstanding performance. Like he's a freak. He's amazing.
I think it seems to be, I feel like maybe like it's probably something we as fans do sort of when we shouldn't really, but we seem to put kind of like how some of the French fans think about him sort of onto the French players, and I think there's a bit of a disconnect between them, like because there was still a lot of really crappy comments about him afterwards from a lot of French fans of like, oh, we showed him up. I'm like, did you? I said, did you watch? Because I said he was ridiculously good. Like, I think far and away our best player on the pitch, like no question. And so I was like, I don't feel like I'm seeing what you're seeing. But then the funny thing is that I also think that sometimes us as English fans, and I don't mean us three, I mean just like as a collective, like sometimes we make it worse by thinking that we've got to stick up for him. But actually, you watch the match and I'm like, he doesn't care. Like he doesn't care. Like he doesn't do a single thing that makes us think that he actually gives a crap what anyone has to say about him, to be honest. Like he just goes, he does his thing. I mean, when BLBRA was like screaming in his face, he didn't even look at him. He just got up off the ground and just walked off. Like he does not like respond whatsoever. But the respect definitely amongst the players and some of the fans has definitely gone up since that match. I mean, even before the match, he was like chatting and laughing away with Luku, who was obviously sidelined during the game, and then afterwards was quite pally with lots of them. And the coach's name has gone out of my head. I know his first name is Noel. Whichever one of their coaches is called Noel has some really nice comments to make about him afterwards.
Is that McNamara?
That's it, about how good he was and how much they kind of have a level of respect for him. I mean, I think the yellow card that he managed to basically buy was one of my favorite things. Like that's a guy that's like that's a guy that's like, if I tap and go, they're gonna have to tackle me because I've already scored 2, and I know that they're just gonna come for me straight away. And that guy who put in a horrible tackle attempt and got himself injured, but I was like, he's gonna go for him. I was like, he's gonna go for him. I know he is, because Pollock has already scored 2 tries, and there's zero doubt in my mind that they do not want him to get a third. And he tapped and went, knowing that he was going to get tackled before 10 metres.
It's just absolutely crunched him, didn't he? Like he lined him up. Like the player had his head down, like awful crunch position. No, he wasn't going to win that tackle because his body wasn't aligned. He was set up to crumple, and just absolutely bumped him off. He's lucky he didn't get a serious neck injury or something.
That's what happens when a scrum half tries to tackle a forward, not properly. And that's the worst feeling ever, isn't it? He's knocked out, he's getting all the treatment, and they're like, we need to sub him. The ref's like, no, he's being yellow carded.
The ref had to say it about 3 times, right? So the ref was like, oh, he's got to go off, but he's also got a yellow card. And then one of the medics went, oh, we need to do a replacement. He went, no, he's been given a yellow card. And I reckon about 3 or 4 times he had to repeat it before somebody was like, he's given him a yellow card, guys. Like, yes, he's injured, but no one else is coming back on for this guy. And you never want anyone to. And Pollock wouldn't have intended for that to happen. He just spotted someone and was like, I reckon if I run at this person, he's going to try and tackle me before 10. And he was right. And unfortunately, the guy's sort of, because he was probably so desperate to tackle him and stop him, just got himself in a bad position.
Pollock did go up and check he was all right, didn't he, as he was going?
He did, yeah. I don't think his intention was to completely steamroll him into the ground. His intention was like, because like that was that.
Yeah, it's more than fair enough.
Yeah. But I also don't think that his intention then was to specifically tap and go because he thought he was going to make it to the line. I think he thought he could buy a penalty, and he was right. And in fact, he bought a yellow card for the team out of it. So, no, that guy Pollock was on it for the whole game. I mean, if we had 15 of him, maybe we actually would have won.
But like it was Jonah Lomo back in the day, where you could have 15 John Slytomes or 15 Jonah Lomos. Yeah, if you had 15 Pollock, to win it, haven't you?
To catch the ball off of a really nice bellow kick through to him, to chip it, and it wasn't just that he didn't catch it, Penno did, and he just took it out of his hands. Because I remember thinking at first, I think, oh, he's caught it, and then they showed it from another angle, and oh no, Penno just about had it in his hands, and Pollock just went, I'll have that, thank you, and off he went. And I was like,
so Penno like he is the most elusive runner I've ever seen on a rugby pitch. Like, it's like he's got a magnetic field around him. He just sort of he seems to never be in contact with anything, and he's just so elusive. But he does some absolutely strange things with the ball sometimes, And just typical of him, really. I mean,
you knew it didn't get to Pollock with his celebration. He did that massive splash, stood up, shushed the crowd, did the neck finger with the 2 fingers on the neck for the poles, and then booted the ball into the hoardings, didn't he? So yeah, sort of like, you're not entertained. You will not shush me. I did read that on one of the social media pages that apparently loads of the French fans were actually singing his name at the end. Don't know if that was true, but that just shows that's respect, because he's sort of gone, you can boo me all you like, but it's not affecting me. It's just boosting me.
Well, it's like I know it's like a phrase that probably gets overused a bit, but it really is the pantomime villain. Like you hate them during
Yeah.
the pantomime, but once the pantomime is finished, they're just another person.
Yeah.
They're just another person that you like and get on with. Like it was. It's such a
Let-
strange, and I'm assuming we're probably going to come up against them, hopefully in the future because they're such fun matches, even if we did lose. But it's such an insane atmosphere that those games between us are going to create. Like, and it's really, really great for the sport as well. But yeah, I mean, look, like I said, not that many positives to take, but the bonus point and just Pollock and how he played for that whole match is definitely one of them. I mean, he was so up for it.
You said about him talking to Luca at the start or whenever it was in. It's probably because those two were at the Heineken, whatever, it's not Heineken now, is it? The press day when the cut.
Yeah, the press day thing.
Pollock was our person, wasn't he? He'd gone down there, so
Yeah.
they were having a chat then. So that's probably why.
Well, quite a few of them. I mean, at the end of it, I'm pretty sure I saw Cameron Waukee hug everyone as he was sort of walking around, like, and I think Penno took a picture with, I can't remember which player uploaded it to their Instagram. So actually, I think there's a lot of. I still think that some of the ways they responded after the final, in particular Jalabert, and I understand how he has a reputation, like there's something about him I just don't like. But the rest of the team kind of went up in my estimations from where they sort of were at the end of last season in terms of there's actually probably a lot more mutual respect there than we probably initially realised that there was, and that's always a nice thing to see.
All the animosity came from nonsense anyway. Like it was
Yeah.
Delalio quote that had nothing to do with Pollock that got attributed to Pollock, like that caused it also. Like it is a bit of nonsense anyway. Should we have a look ahead to the Scarlets fixture this Sunday? I mean, it should be. They're really seemingly struggling. They haven't won a game, I don't think, this season. The state of Welsh rugby seemingly gets worse every single day. I mean, you don't see many days where there isn't a negative article about Welsh rugby in the news. But what I would say is Scarlets scored like 28 points or something. They scored like a job lot of points last week in defeat. And whilst, let's be honest, they're Welsh internationals, they're not, so that has a caveat to it. They've got a number of internationals in the side. Today they've got a new director of rugby that's been announced. Like, I don't want to say it, but is it a potential banana skin? Is it how bad?
I don't know.
If we lose to Scarlets, do we have to fold the club? Like, is it that bad?
I feel like if we had beat Bordeaux, there'd be more of an argument for the banana skin. But I think we're coming off of a pretty decent sized loss, and I think the 5 points, getting the actual full 5 and a good points difference, is actually really, really important. So I don't think so. And obviously it's difficult, like you're right, like their rugby director, or whatever, is gone and someone else is coming in, and that's always a tough thing for a team to deal with, sort of in the middle of a season, in the middle of a week as well. I think, or I hope, because I don't want to say I think or like I know, because I've got no idea how it's going to go, but you'd like to think that Saints know that there's probably some wrongs that they need to right this week in terms of performance levels and things. And at home, I just think we're just so tough to beat at home at the moment. With the kind of the crowds and things like that. That I'd be surprised if it was. I know we were both, me and Charles, before the Quins game, were talking about it. Like, is it going to be a banana skin against Quins? Because obviously they had a lot to come back from. But I think the difficulty that you've got, you're right, there are some internationals in there, but I just think that Scarlets are probably, and they probably wouldn't necessarily disagree, the fans, that they're probably just like a level below. And I'm not sure that they'll be able to realistically compete. But again, I caveat that all with like, who knows? Because the sport is crazy and anything can happen. But I mean, I would be surprised, but I don't want to say definitely one way or another, otherwise I'll have to like eat my hat or something. But
yeah, that's the thing. Like this, when you look at the Quins team, like the potential banana skin was always there because there is actually a lot of talent in that Quins setup. But then that shows you, and the game against Bordeaux shows you, the game isn't necessarily paid on paper. It's about performance. And, we didn't turn up on Sunday. And we're not going to beat Scarlets unless we turn up this Sunday. That's like a given. But you, like you say, you do look at Scarlets and think there's absolutely no way. Like it's, and this is supposed to be the premium competition that we're in, and we're up against a team that we generally don't think should. We shouldn't even have. They shouldn't be challenged. They don't even really. I don't think they should even be scoring against us, even though they scored job lot points last week. They really are a long way off what we should be performing at, and that's just because they're not in a position to put performances out because of they're struggling at the moment. It's a tough time to be a Scarlets fan, I imagine, and I have so much sympathy for them.
But maybe if I
really
use a football analogy, and I can't believe I'm going to do this, but maybe they'll end up being the Macclesfield to our Crystal Palace, and it will all go wrong. I mean, I hope not, but who knows?
I'm impressed that you actually followed that.
Thanks, guys. But yeah,
because I know you don't like football.
Look, I know, but those kinds of things can certainly happen. But yeah, I mean, like I said, again, caveating because nobody knows what's ever going to happen. But yeah, I would be pretty surprised if that was to happen. But yeah, I suppose part of it's going to depend on who we've even got available. At some point, we need Finn back, so we can't play Bello because the poor guy's going to lose the bottom half of his face if he keeps going. The rate he goes, he's already lost all his teeth. What else could we take from the poor guy? Hopefully
taking a year of his career or half his teeth.
Half his
the man has given us everything.
Yeah. He looks like Frankenstein's monster.
Do you actually know what happened to him? Because he went off, didn't he? In the Queen's game with a cut. And then they said they found teeth.
Yeah, he got a boot to the face. No, he got a boot to the face.
Yeah, but then they said they found the teeth. But they said they found the teeth in training.
Yeah, after
they were training on the pitch.
They were training after.
Right, okay.
And they said we were picking his teeth up off the ground that had just been there since the. But I remember he walked off, and we noticed it at the Queen's game. He walked off with a towel to his face that was just red, and it was clearly a towel that was white in origin. And it was everywhere. And then someone put up because obviously I'd seen he was on the unavailable list, and someone put a picture up of him, and you could just see literally it was like Frankenstein had stitched his mouth back together at the bottom. He'd had it fully stitched, and then I think I read in that interview, didn't they, that not only did he get a specialized gum shield for his top and bottom teeth, he then left it behind, and they had to turn around and go and get it. I mean, the poor guy was has gone through it. So yeah, you'd like to think that actually at some point, sort of, it might be maybe you actually should take a week off this time because we've just reopened all the stitches. He's probably had to go and have that done again. I think they did say there was more dentistry work he needed to get done. So, and they did say, to be fair, that Finn was more precautionary. I think they made the right choice. I think Dowser said this is probably the best time to rest him, and I would agree. I know people go, well, it's Bordeaux, you need to put blah blah, but I said we could have put our full strength team out and still lost because of how good Bordeaux was. So I still think they made the right call, but they said that was just a calf strain and he should be all right to go. I suppose the worry.
Same about Bath. Oh, you should.
No, yeah, for sure.
We went and beat them, so it can happen.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, obviously, I think Dingers that must be decently long term because that was a hell of a clattering to the head. I think that's. That's a decent long term. So, yeah, sort of.
I suppose you then also question if, do they rotate slightly with the Sale game in mind? Going away to Sale, is a game we traditionally have really struggled with. It's a big opportunity to stake a claim for the season. That's almost could be a real win if we get some points up there.
Yeah.
Whereas we should be able to rotate a bit and still beat Scarlets.
I think there's. You maybe make a case that I said obviously I don't know if Rory was still struggling. I don't think so, but obviously he'd had the knock to his ribs that was bothering him for a couple of weeks. So I wouldn't be mad if you brought Tame in, for example, and had maybe Rory having a bit of a break and a couple of Slights. I think you need to play Slights just because he needs he needs the game time, and it looks like Ram. I don't know what his injury was, but it was an injury I think that forced him out. And Todoro, they need to manage that guy's minutes because it feels like he's played every single game for the whole game at full pace. So I should imagine there naturally will just be a bit of I think for example if JJ really has been sick, a week where he doesn't play, maybe you have Prowse and Munger could still definitely get the job done against a Scarlet side, because that Sale game isn't just about the fact that Sale as a team they have obviously been beaten at home, but they are a difficult side to overturn there. But it's also, you want to win that because you want to keep yourself first. going into the big block of, you get yourself first, you go for a 6 week break from that tournament at the top. That's where you want to be. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'd argue that rotation against Scarlets makes the most sense. Like
I think
it is probably the best team to have. Again, no shade to Scarlets, but definitely the best team to have at home at this current stage of the season, considering both Europe and the Prem.
Yeah, and I think they might consider that that it's going to be it was a physical challenge on Sunday, and it's going to be a
Yeah,
real physical challenge away at Sale. So maybe the likes of Pearson, Pollock, etc. Are sort of prepped for the Sale game, so they can go up there and go full go, without having to worry about Scarlets, etc. Whereas the likes of Graham and Chick, for example, can probably do a pretty good job.
yeah. I
In,
suppose the
in
only thing they
certain
might think, I suppose the only thing they might think about Pollock is they did just rest him before the Bordeaux game. So I wonder if they, who knows? Like I said, there's so many different, as always, there's so many different permutations that they can do, and they can probably still put a good side out. Also depends where Kemeny is as well, right? Like, you know,
Yeah,
he's going through the return protocols. If he could be back this weekend, then yeah, you maybe do rest Pollock, for example, and you have Kemeny in, because the flip side to everyone else, he probably needs a game under his belt if he's then going to go and play for Sale, just because he would have had a couple of weeks off with the head injury. So yeah, there's it depends where people are, doesn't it? Like, I mean, like Ferbs unfortunately is back on the injury list with a calf issue again that needs to get scanned. So, you know, can't help but think that he's not going to be available potentially, and then it obviously becomes a question of, do they maybe have Hendy just go again so he can get some form back? Who knows? Like, there's so many different ways that they can think it, and we always say, they must have different plans for different individuals. Some individuals can be rested and still be okay. Some need to keep going, and then they've just got to work with what they've got. But I mean, it's interesting, thinking about like contracts and re-signings and things, that the news on Ferb seems to have just gone quiet. It seemed to be pretty much a done deal, and now we've not really heard anything. But it's also
not
difficult.
heard
Like,
any. Yeah, but he's not been. He's also not been featuring neither. So I know
no,
that
yeah,
it was an
exactly, yeah,
illness, and now it's a scan on a calf, and
yeah. But
it
it
might
also
just be a
kind of does it.
coincidence.
It does put it back into kind of focus. Like, I know, there's a lot of chatter online of why we're only offering him 1 year, etc. But if this injury thing is going to be something that persists, it kind of puts it in context as to kind of what the club is willing to kind of pay for, to put it kind of bluntly. Like,
Yeah, well, they obviously had the same thought process with Lewis. He
mm,
had some injury concerns around him, but then you look, he's gone to Toulon, and man's
He's
a
played the
machine.
most. He's played the
Yeah,
yeah,
most minutes in Europe, hasn't he,
yeah,
in 2025?
yeah. But
yeah.
I
So
suppose the only thing you could say is that, I suppose, the difficulty with Ferbs is it's not, it's like, it's the arm, then it was one calf, then it was the other calf, then both calves were playing up at the same time. Like, it does kind of become a question of, you know, realistically, they need to put their kind of money and attention on those that are a bit more of a sure thing. Not that anyone is ever a sure thing. Anything can happen to anyone at any time. But, you've got to say that, someone he's 29 now, isn't he, with kind of injury issues going on. Like, the reality is it does and has to factor in to
yeah,
those
yeah.
kinds of discussions. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting that it was definitely supposed to be announced at one point. And then it kind of all went a bit quiet. And I don't know if Quins are maybe focusing at the moment on a new coach, which they probably should be. But
Yeah, it's hard for them
yeah,
to announce anything, I guess. Like
yeah, exactly.
they've got to
Like,
pick the time to announce it, and
yeah,
they've
for
actually
sure.
done all right in Europe, to be fair to them. But
Yeah,
you're not. It's not a case of, we've had a few thumpings, and yeah, but look what we've got, shiny new toy next year, sort of
yeah.
thing. So
I mean,
it's difficult.
I suppose you also have to put like the Quins' performance into perspective. Like, I didn't watch it. I'm assuming it must have been a Stormers side that didn't send a full strength, because they're top of the URC, I believe, and they're absolutely flying. So I'm assuming that's
Yeah,
where their focus is, because we've said this before about the South Africa teams, but they fully know and have been fully open about not being able to really work it on both fronts. So I'm gonna, and that's not any shade to Harlequins whatsoever, but like, if the Stormers have sent a very weakened side, like, you still would fancy Quins at home. But there's no doubt that some of the performances they put out in the Prem have been below what people, even us as like fans of different teams, like expect that they're going to bring. But yeah, I suppose it becomes really difficult for a team like Quins of like, are you going to announce lots of player signings when the question is actually, is the coaching setup where your focus needs to be? So yeah, sometimes it's optics as much as it is anything else. But yeah, I mean, we definitely are carrying some injuries into next week. So I think, this week now, sorry. So I suppose, rotation probably is going to be the aim of the game.
So on that basis, let's do some predictions. Jess, do you want to start?
Okay. Oh God. Because the thing is, I don't know who's going to be playing, so I need to think very hard about this. I'm going to go big. I went big against Quins, but I didn't go big enough. How big do I go? Let's go 63. I just plucked a number off thin air. What are Scarlets going to be capable of? I don't know. 12? Sorry, Scarlets.
Got a scorer?
Because I feel like these are going to be ones that we're going to have to change as the team comes out, because who knows what's going to happen. But let's go McParland.
McParland, okay.
I'm trying to think of who will be playing.
I'm going to go 56-7, and I'm going to go Todoro.
Mm-hmm.
You're up, Si.
I was close to Jess's actually, 68-19, and I've got to go for Tommy, even though he might not be playing, but he still scores every time I've picked him.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, last week was a dead heat. None of us got the result of the margin, etc. But
I let my heart rule that. We all went Saints when we probably thought they were going to win, but yeah.
And me and Si both got a try scorer correct. So
I literally couldn't even remember who any of us picked.
So there we go.
Cool.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for listening, everyone. It's been another interesting show. So we've got to have these shows even after defeats. It's a bit harder, but we've got to talk them through. But thank you for listening. I've been Charles. Jess has been Jess. Simon's been Simon. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Bye.